How dare they get the profit from their resources and give it to the people who actually live and work in the country? It's really disgusting of you, Mexico. This is behind closed doors. This is not information they want out there. The U.S. internally is upset that Mexico is spending money on its own citizens. Very upset. Very upsetting. This is just infuriating that Mexico would have the temerity, the gall, the gonads, the crass mentality to spend money on Mexicans. It's just disgusting. Okay. The U.S. has told them, do not spend money on your own people. Spend it on things we want you to spend it on, such as solidifying the border. This is from The Intercept. The U.S. government is frustrated that Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who has roughly 3 too many names, is prioritizing social spending for the benefit of his people over addressing matters that are important to the U.S. Asshole. Part of a cache of classified intelligence records that were leaked earlier this year, the document highlights the growing discontent by U.S. officials toward Mexico's president. President López Obrador's federal budget for 2023 gives priority to social spending and signature infrastructure projects rather than investments needed to address bilateral issues with the U.S., such as migration, security, and trade, reads the document from the Office of Director of National Intelligence. López Obrador's meager investment in migration, security, and trade-related organizations will probably undermine, and when they say trade-related organizations, they mean helping send as much money as possible to the U.S., even at the detriment of Mexicans. That's what trade is in the American view. Will probably undermine Mexico's ability to follow through on commitments to stem the flow of irregular migrants and fentanyl to the U.S. and boost economic competitiveness in North America. Why is it that there is a need for fentanyl? Oh, there's an opioid crisis in the U.S., and a lot of Americans have switched from expensive prescription opioids that are tough to get to the cheaper, heavily or easily available opioids like fentanyl that are causing something like 100,000 Americans a year to die. And so there's an opioid epidemic in the U.S. And how did that? Oh yeah, corporate America, big pharma, Purdue Pharma, among others, the Sackler family, the most disgusting human beings on the planet that own our government, created this epidemic, told people across America for 20, 30 years that opioids, various kinds of them, were not addictive, that you could take them for some pain and just easily stop. And they knew it wasn't true. And they knew people were getting addicted, and they knew people were dying, and they didn't care. And they pushed it and they pushed it and they pushed it and they looked the other way. And so here we are with a lot of Americans addicted to opioids and a lot of Americans dying from opioids. And then we turn to Mexico and go, how dare you spend money on helping your citizens? How dare you? When we have Americans dying from fentanyl, how dare you spend money to give food to Mexicans? Okay? I don't mean to say it, but I'm afraid I have to say it. Giving money to dirty Mexicans. Okay? Can we, because it's really just wrong. Your priorities are all out of whack, Mexico. López Obrador's 2023 federal budget presented to the Mexican Congress last fall does increase funding for social programs. Oh, gasp. Including a significant raise for the pension provided to older Mexicans. Oh, the horror. It also prioritizes large infrastructure projects, which are mostly concentrated in southern states of the country. This is truly revolting on every level. And let's also remember, so internally, the U.S. is saying, screw Mexico because they are giving money to needy Mexicans, to Mexicans that are struggling, to Mexicans that are in need. I didn't mean needy in the, derogatory sense, but I mean literally in need Mexicans, the poorer, the elderly, the ill, the young. That's where that money's going. And the U.S. is like, you jackasses. But let's remember that this fight between the U.S. and Mexico goes back a little further to other things, such as the nationalizing of a lot of Mexican resources. This article says the Mexican government continues nationalizing key industries despite U.S. objections. With AMLO's purchase of 13 Spanish owned power plants, the majority of Mexico's electricity production is now state controlled. Now, when you when a country makes something state controlled and it's not just a giveaway to the corporate state, then it means it's going back to the people. It means that the profit from those things, whether it's electricity, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's lithium, is going to be spent on the human beings in Mexico. Again, I reiterate, gasp. How dare they get the profit from their resources and give it to the people who actually live and work in the country? It's really disgusting of you, Mexico. And then lithium is the big one that's been happening recently. Mexican senators approved state control of lithium sought by AMLO. And lithium is something the U.S. really needs. Not just the U.S., but the world really needs, because it's in so many batteries now. And there's been a big shift to more electric vehicles and more lithium batteries. And various cleaner energies. I get that they're not really as clean as we may hope, but cleaner energies. Lithium is required. So the U.S. has been cooing countries that have lithium, like Bolivia, even though that coup was overturned, and Peru and others. But Mexico has been looking to create kind of an OPEC for lithium, where they and others would control the price and flow of lithium. And then if they've nationalized lithium, those profits go back to the people. And the other thing that happened recently is the U.S. So when a country does that, nationalizes things, gives the profits to the people, the U.S. has a variety of things they do to that country. Sometimes they create a coup, like we did in Bolivia. Sometimes they put economic sanctions, which is economic war, on the country, like we did in Venezuela and are doing to Venezuela. But with Mexico, there's a few things going on. One is we're more tightly aligned with Mexico. There's a lot of business interests there. But also, because the Mexican president has a 6-year term and that is it, one and done, they cannot run again, the U.S. is like, well, we'll just power through till the next election. We'll help manipulate the next election, make sure a right-winger gets in there. I don't know where things stand right now, whether it looks like a right-winger would win or not, but the U.S. will certainly try and manipulate that election, make sure a right-winger gets in there. So the U.S. is a little more concerned about that than a country where someone can keep running, like Venezuela, where Maduro has won many times, Chavez and Maduro. But Venezuela, in terms of whether it's a legit election, has far more legit elections than the U.S. does. So we can't really look at them and go, oh, it's not democracy down there. It's like, we have less democracy than you have, like by far. Anyway, so the U.S., so I was saying the U.S. does various things when a country nationalizes their resources and gives back to the people. And when they don't coup them or have economic war, they start putting out reports that kind of lay the groundwork for an economic war, reports that harm the country and the country's ability to do business around the world, reports like saying that that country harms human rights, or that country forbids, religious practices or something like that. Now, of course, we don't care if a country forbids other religious practices if it's one we're allied with. We don't put out human rights reports against Israel. We don't put out human rights reports against Saudi Arabia. But the U.S. has just put out a human rights report against Mexico, and AMLO has rejected it, saying that it was straight up lies, which I'm liable to believe, even though I don't live down in Mexico, because everything we do is lies. It's all lies. We just lie a lot. It's just endless lies. So I tend to think that this is probably true, what AMLO is saying, that our human rights report was lies. But let's see how the State Department reacts to AMLO calling it lies. Let's see if they give a real nice, honest reaction to the president of Mexico saying they're lying.
Go ahead, and I'll come back to you. Sorry. Go ahead.
President Andres Manuel López Obrador criticized earlier today your human rights report, and he called the State Department a liar. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, what I would say is that the United States has worked for decades to strengthen respect for human rights, and this
Hold on. Sorry. I just had to. The U.S. has worked for decades to defend the human rights. Not the, technically not the rights of the humans we've killed. Not like the 6 million killed by the global war on terror. Not the millions killed in Vietnam and Korea and various other countries, and Libya and Yemen and Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. All of those who are dead. We didn't help with their human rights per se, but the other ones, the still living ones, oh man, have we given them some rights? Ho ho ho! Have we given them some rights?
Respect for human rights, and this commitment reflects core American values and internationally recognized human rights.
I think he's just saying the word human rights as much as he can. Just internationally human rights, and the U.S. has stood for the rights of human rights in human rights, in all of the human rights, within the human rights, also, yes, human rights. Okay, next, human rights. What was that?
Enshrined in documents such as the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Enshrined in documents that we wipe our ass with. But I have seen those documents, and it is right there. You must respect human rights, and it is a little hard to read considering how many times we've wiped our collective ass with it. It is getting difficult to read, but it is still there. It is enshrined in that document, but I will say that the ass wiping is pretty good. It's pretty good. It gets the job done.
This is a report that we have released regularly on an annual basis, and it is about
That was his question. How often do you release reports? Thank you for asking me.
Recognizing and promoting the human rights
and such things. He's basically giving the same response as that beauty queen gave about in foreign policy. I think that that Saddam Hussein needs freedom and justice in the Iraq and such things. It's the same. This guy's giving the same answer. He just replaced the Iraq with the human rights
and the foundations of freedom and justice and worldwide peace.
In the foundations of freedom and justice and worldwide peace. This guy sounds like a fucking like 8-year-old giving a book report. And I believe that America has freedom and justice, and with worldwide freedom, justice, human rights, freedom, and the justice, and the freedoms. I like the book. Thank you and good night, or thank you, and freedom, justice. Where do they find these people? And how do they? I mean, I would ask how they sleep at night, but clearly it's just when you're that dumb. I assume you just go into some sort of frothing state of torpor. Is that what it's called? It's not stupor. It's where hummingbirds go into like a sleep state. Hummingbird sleep state. It's called torpor. Sorry. Torpor, I called it. That's weird. Torpor. I assume when you're that dumb and you're spitting that much garbage, you just sleep in like a suspended animation. He crosses his arm, kind of like Dracula or Black Panther, and he lays down, and then his heart beats like once every hour or something. I imagine it's like that. Pretty sure I'm right about that.
It was pretty much the same question But I mean, do you actually have a response to him calling?
I don't know if you can hear that. She goes, next question. She goes, well, I pretty much have the same question, but do you have a response? Like, she's trying. Here's the thing is these people, they will ask pushing questions, but they don't want to be rude because they need to get their press credentials renewed each time. So they will often say things that are like rude if you think about it for a second. She literally said, I have the same question, but could you answer it this time? You fuckface. Like, I have the same question. Just, what about answering it? That is legit what she just said.
Myra.
It was pretty much the same question, but I mean, do you actually have a response to him calling you guys liars? And they also say U.S. believes it's the government of the world. Those are like pretty strong words. Do you have a response to that?
We have never been ones to indicate that.
We have never been ones to indicate that. I always love when they ask a guy a question, he gives a fully bullshit answer, and then they just ask it again, and then it's like brain shut down, eyes glaze over. Oh God, they asked it a second time.
Do you have a response to that?
We have never been ones to indicate that we are the governments of the world or some kind of edict like that.
AMLO apparently said the U.S. thinks it's the government of the world, and his response was, we have never said that we're the government of the world. Yeah, you don't say it. That's what yeah, of course you don't say it, you idiot.